Armand's here, Casey's here, Pat's here, Donna's here, Kathy's here, Robin's here, John Kay is here, Fiona and Ellen. And we have Karen is here, David's here. We have Laurel, we have Sharon, Kevin Arrow's here. We have Lynn, who's the new business manager in Torrington, right there. And Amy will be a little late, but she'll be here. I think I got everybody. Okay, the approval agenda, we want to make one motion. Do you want to do that now?
I'll do that. I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda with one amendment, swapping A and B. So A would be, B would be first ONG project schedule, and then A would be second architect update.
Can I have a second? Second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. No minutes yet. Public participation. I don't have to read. Anybody want to talk? You want to talk? No.
You always want to talk, Ed, so be careful what you
Oh,
ask.
okay. You don't have to. Anybody else? Public participation. Also, I forgot we have Brian Scott here, the middle school principal. I'm sorry, Brian.
That's okay.
Okay. So number one, as I put in the notes, we have a readable schedule. Let me get Fiona walk in and see that. So we can read that schedule. So Laura.
Thank you. I know last time we presented the schedule was a very simple bar chart, so you kind of knew what was going on. This is actually the document that we use to manage the process. There's certain milestone dates that are on here so that we know what we need to hit. The design team knows what dates need to be hit, and then we can manage progress accordingly. So the first page, you'll see some milestones. These are the important start and end dates of the design phases. This is what gets us out to bid, right? So we want to keep track of that. Those are tied into other activities further down, but this is what we use to track. You'll see two,
Laurel,
yes.
Sorry, just people that are new to seeing the schedule, could you just explain just quickly the layout, like
Okay,
the
fine.
idea, the activity,
Okay,
the start?
sorry,
just
I
'cause
jumped
it's-
right into
I know
it.
we look at it all the time, but it's
Yeah. Okay, so the
just to
first
bring it
column
down.
is just an activity ID. That's what we use to identify every task. The activity name is the task at hand that we use to manage progress. Original duration is just a timeline that we put. We put logic into the schedule. Certain things have to happen after other things are completed, or perhaps something starts after something else starts. But we put that logic in with the durations, and that automatically comes up with the start and finish dates. So the layout is the very first page you see is the milestones. So these are the high level dates that we know we need to hit. And I will explain the two construction start dates. So 01480, start work on site. It says alternate design approach, and that's May 16th, 2022. It's important to realize that in order to be starting work on site May of 2022, the building committee is going to need to roll right into construction documents once design development is done without waiting for the estimate to get done. So we had talked about this last time. You guys had approved that approach. I'm pretty sure when we did the, did you do it in a special project executive meeting, or it was the bar chart where we
No, it
said
was the one with
we're going to go with the alternate.
When we presented the schedule about trying to hit those targets,
Correct.
getting the students
Correct.
in for the winter break of
Right.
24, 25.
And then
Right.
middle school next year.
Exactly.
So
That was
this-
contingent
yeah.
upon that approach. for the
Right. So
overlap.
I mean, the process usually is you do schematic design, you do the estimate, just like we did. We did the estimate, we presented it to you, we proceeded into design development. Then you would have that 6-week period, if you will, after design development to present the estimate, approve it, and then proceed into construction documents. But we're trying to gain that extra time. So instead, at the end of DD, design development, they're going to start right into construction documents. So that's the soonest we would be starting work on site. That's physical machines showing up May 16th. Okay, the alternative is when school lets out, which is assumed at around June 24th of 2022. And then you'll see some various completion dates. Other things that we like to keep track of are these professional services contracts. So on behalf of the owner, you know, where are things at? I put the CM contract approval in by the end of July. I'm assuming that that's where we're at. We're on target for hopefully getting our contract approved by the end of this month, right?
Right, the city council's meeting the 19th, that's on their
Yeah.
agenda.
Okay.
It's on the
good.
agenda Monday.
And then there's other contracts that you guys will need to be aware of, and eventually you're going to need to see our guaranteed maximum price. So again, those are just activities that are kind of tied together. And then if you skip to page 2, we're already through conceptual design. We're already through schematic design. We are now in design development. So you'll see that I have blue. You have color, right? It's really hard to see, but that's where we are as of today. They have proceeded into design development. We document the actual date they started, which was the day after the last building committee. And everything in red, if you see red, if we don't hit that date, that automatically impacts our start date, right? So those are the activities that we absolutely need to keep track of and monitor very closely. And so you'll see we're in design development. Next stage after that is construction documents. You'll see that there's a direct tie-in between the end of design development and the start of construction documents. Again, we're not waiting for the estimate to get done. And then we have towards the bottom of page 2, a lot of state dates we need to track as well, because that affects the schedule. If we don't get up to the state in time, we need to go up to the state for them to give us approval to go out to bid. So keeping track of all those activities. Page 3 pretty much has all these other meetings that we need. So, and then we have the state and the town approvals. Anything that we're going to need local authorities for, we're going to also start tracking that and keeping track of all our local reviews and what impacts the project. So it's a lot of information, but it's a tool that we use to make sure that the owner, CSG, SLAM, everybody, we're all on the same page with where the project is heading. We can track progress. You'll see bidding and award towards the end. But you'll see that I'll try to, usually I'll update this once a month. Your first meeting of the month is usually what I do. So you'll see this over and over again with the blue line progressing further and further to the right. And I don't know if anybody has any questions, concerns. I'm happy to address any questions.
If you have any questions later on, just email me, and Ellen has a question.
Why did you said you're proceeding without the estimate?
Mm-hmm.
I don't
So,
clarify.
okay, so at the end of each design phase, the architect will provide to us a set of documents that O&G then does an estimate on. And
Okay.
SLAM also does an estimate. We do that reconciliation process, right? And we need to make sure that we're still on budget, or at least close to budget, in order to keep going.
Mhm.
So when I say we're going to proceed right forward, we're still going to do the estimate, but the construction documents, SLAM is just going to continue to finalize the documents. They're not going to wait to try to get building committee approval.
Until it's fine. Okay,
Correct.
gotcha.
We're just taking a shot and we're proceeding forward in order to gain the 6 weeks. That's really what the
Gotcha.
philosophy
Then you
is.
report back to us, and
Correct.
by that time,
Right.
the estimates will be approved.
Yes,
or-
and we'll
or
have
will
to,
equal whatever.
right. And at that time, if it turns out that we do have a budget issue, we may have to look at some alternates, like what can we, package separately so that when we go out to bid, the base bid is on budget, but if you can afford it, we'll go after these alternates like fields or artificial turf or whatever. I'm just throwing ideas out,
Right,
but
right, yeah.
the idea is just to do whatever we can to kind of maintain the original schedule as much as possible.
Keep the flow.
Correct.
Okay.
So this is our plan to get there.
All right,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just a quick one. So design development is sometime in mid to late September for 2021.
Yeah, they owe us documents on September 17th, and then we will start our estimate.
And then we'll have a meeting to look at that.
Okay, just generally, what's going to happen between now and then to bring us to that date? Just a quick overview.
The architect will be, they're coming up with their systems. They're designing what mechanical systems are going to be going in so that we know what to price.
Okay.
They're finalizing the building layout. They're finalizing what the exterior wall systems are going to be. And Amy will present to you what she's been working on and will continue. So every month or every building committee meeting, she will be giving you an update of what they're drawing next. So at some point during design development, there's going to be material selections. There's going to be carpets, all that's kind of, they're trying to define the nitty gritty of the materials that are going to be in so that we know what to estimate
Okay.
when it comes time to do a price check.
That's all by mid-September?
Yep.
Wow.
And again, I think that's something that Amy could talk to you about.
Yes.
I think she'd be good to opine on.
And it's 2
What
months
they
from
actually
now.
go
She
through.
has 2 months and 3 days or something. So
Yeah, she's taking a vacation, but the vacation is in Atlanta where they have an office.
Oh. And it's not just SLAM that's working hard on the design development documents, it's also their consultants. So, you know, the structural engineer's doing what he's doing. He's assuming certain sizes for the steel, you know, whatever's going on. And the MEP, CES will be developing systems, electrical. So there's a whole packet that's prepared so that we know how to put numbers to it. Again,
And
it's
through
just a
that
price
process
check.
too, they're posing questions to us about, you know, what are, just last week, right, there was,
Hmm.
well, what are the different exterior walls cost approximately? So they can figure out, okay, if we do brick here or we do that, it's a savings or not. So they're getting some feedback from us along the
Mhm.
way so that they can course correct a little bit as they're doing the design, so that we don't have any big surprises when we get that design
Right.
development package.
Yes.
Especially knowing that we want them to keep
I
pencils.
tried to talk really
Pencils
slow.
going.
Because even at the schematic design, we met and we made some changes, but the changes that we made were not educational. We really want to keep, as Mario and I spoke about that, we want to keep the educational pathways and everything there. So we made some changes. You remember, we eliminated that corridor. We also, they're not in the basement anymore, so that saved $1 million. So
Mhm.
we stay away from the
Right.
educational areas.
So all those changes that were made, or all those changes that were accepted to be incorporated in, will be incorporated in the set that we will be seeing. So,
Yeah, Fiona.
Sorry, that hallway elimination, I can't get past that. I'm really worried about having a facility that requires people to keep that separation. And I'm really, when you look at what it's gonna cost us to man that hallway, I'm not positive we're not being penny wise and pound foolish. And I also think it's gonna have severe backlash from the community, because I think that was one of the major concerns that people had, was keeping those kids separate from high school to middle school. So, and I don't know if anyone else feels the same, but I just
I don't
really
necessarily
can't stop
disagree with
thinking
you.
about it.
But having it also brings its own problems as well, you know, a 300-foot corridor.
right.
But they wouldn't have access
The kids,
to it, right?
no, they would make trouble amongst themselves.
Yeah.
I know, but
I
if
will
you high
look at
school
it.
kids making
300
trouble
feet.
in that corridor
That's a
versus
lot.
middle
There's a
school
lot of
kids
things that can be
being
done
over
with 300 feet, and then you have to.
Oh, you remember what went on in the connector? for God's sake?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Have a degree of vandalism and the supervision, you probably have to have cameras in there, you probably have to have at least one person in there,
I
at
mean,
least one or two.
we have to talk to the two Sues. I mean, they're,
Yeah.
and Robin, they're the ones ultimately responsible for positioning these security guards, 6 of them. Or something.
Yeah, but there's 6 in the building, but they're.
6 in the
middle
building,
school,
right.
but, not all of them are gonna be there.
But
But could there be a discussion like with these guys of like, I don't know, maybe a door that you need a buzzer to
well, yeah, we
open it, or,
we
you
talked
know?
about that a
if-
little bit with Amy and her team
Yeah.
last meeting, and we can continue to talk about it.
I mean,
I
is
looked at the
anyone else
drawings, I didn't-
concerned
I need to
about
see
that?
any logical
comment.
solutions really, but
Oh, good. Does anybody have any more schedule questions? I know you want to get into that one.
Oh, man.
Any other
No,
questions?
no, I
Schedule
comment
questions?
on Fiona's comment.
All right, so
Armand.
I'm gonna sit down.
Yeah, I did. I just
one more.
go into, no, it's actually.
Oh, with the corridor?
Corridor.
Yeah, with the corridor.
Oh, well,
Um,
that's,
I can see that one's gonna take a while.
Yeah, if I visualize it
have a seat.
correctly, obviously we don't have physical space to look at, but
She was.
it's not all that different than what Region 7 is, because they share the cafeteria, they share the gymnasium with the, you know, with the middle school and high school. And there's a space there where sometimes, because I used to work there, there's no adults in this void, so to speak. And then the theater is in between, a lot can happen. So it's not all that different from Region 7, so.
I guess I was visualizing more of what Region 10 has. There's definitive separation between the
Yeah.
two entities.
Right.
Right.
And I think that's.
Wasn't
just
that, when this was first proposed, right? I thought the idea of combining the two schools, the driving vector in all of this, wasn't it to have two, right, to have the two schools in such a way that you have isolated populations, to allay the fears of middle school parents that their kids are gonna be crossing paths with these much older kids, right? And I think I mean, I agree with your sense of things. I wish we could see the design. I wish we could see, is it possible to see the
Yeah.
I
design?
think we probably will.
I mean, at the end of the day, that should be the thing. That was my sense. Okay, when I heard about this and heard about your rationale for doing this, and I understand the history of why you want to do this, and it makes sense to me. However, that all is out the window if you start having these hallways feeding kids, number one, feeding kids, that are crossing paths, okay? The concept is out. You've defeated the purpose of your original intent, number one. Number two, having spoken to people since the last meeting about this design, my gut, it reinforces my general feeling that at the end of the day, you should never ever have staffing replace what should be design solutions to a problem. And the appropriate design solutions, whatever it requires, should be able to feed two discrete populations of middle school, high school kids into those shared services in ways that don't require a whole lot of security. I mean, the parents, I'm just telling you, my gut feeling is parents of Torrington are gonna go nuts, okay? They're gonna feel like this is a juvenile detention center and not a new school. It'll look pretty, it'll look great, it'll look a lot better than the old school that we now have. But that general sense that you need this much security to get your kids safely from A to B multiple times during the course of a day, I think defeats the purpose of what you wanted to push and have flow that is isolated and discrete and therefore in parents' minds safe. So to me, it's.
But it's not
I-
all hallways, it's one hallway.
I was hearing about the gymnasium last time where they're gonna have to have security guards because people are gonna be sharing the gyms and now you're gonna.
But it's just
Gym,
a one
at-
hallway.
At the gym,
There's-
and
there's
the auditorium, that central
It's about
core.
It's
what,
just
a
a-
40, it's like a 40.
It is.
It's about
There's
40
a-
feet.
There's a pinch point where those two grades will come together, or schools.
I mean, isn't it possible,
May I
this is the building, isn't it possible to see a layout of, can we talk about it where we see it actually? planned?
Yes, I'm getting the computer.
All right, thank you.
you. And so I'll be happy to share it with you.
Okay,
But if it
Excuse
is
me,
a
are you the
procedure-
architect?
I'm the architect, yes.
Okay.
Sorry, Amy Samuelson from SLAM.
okay, there.
We, I'll show the plan in a moment and discuss that corridor or not corridor. But I guess I'm not understanding the difference between the students riding on the bus together and the students being at the school.
I mean, and they're doing that this summer at
Yeah,
summer school.
Go to the same place.
What's that, Rep?
They're doing it this summer. Those kids are riding the bus together this summer, middle school and high school students for summer school.
Yeah, but that's the current reality, it doesn't mean it should be the goal. I mean, the goal is to improve.
No, but I think there might be a
Better at what we do.
misconception about security and security guards and that we
Yeah.
need the
It's not gonna
security
be
guards.
6
It's not
security
like-
guards in that one quarter all day. It's, from what Sue said last meeting, they would have to build the schedule also so that there's less interaction with high and
The
middle.
bells are staggered,
Yeah, right.
which
So,
takes care of a lot.
so
of
it's
that.
just, you would need security at those times when there might be some interaction.
Does that staggering of two different schools close to each other all day, I mean, does that have an impact on teachers' ability to keep focus within the classroom?
I don't see it having.
Separate schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one quarter that goes to the gym,
Yeah, we'll
right?
see it. I don't know
We'll see
that there's too many classrums right there.
Yeah.
But if the bells are staggered, we'll call it 7 minutes or.
Yeah.
That'll help a lot.
That'll make a huge difference.
I mean, another thing, I have to see, I wasn't at the last meeting, actually, I think I missed the last two. But like our middle school and high school students, they are going to sporting events together, all kinds of activities together. I'm not saying they should be in the same classroom or anything like that, but they do interact now.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, just looking down the road at the possibility of them increasing the special education age to 25 and the possibility of us having 13-year-olds and 25-year-olds. So I think it's just a lot of concerns about the future too, not just what's happening right now, but what we could be faced with in a few years if that were to pass. And that's an enormous age gap.
Yeah.
I think your concerns are absolutely valid and right on point. The problem, central problem here.
Oh, we're gonna keep looking at it.
Yeah, he's gonna put up the, as soon as she can.
No pressure, Amy.
Not her
Something
fault.
happened in the past, like 2 weeks ago, I had this problem also connecting to the Wi-Fi here. So I can circumvent it with the flash drive, but we're waiting for it to start.
I can get you.
But while it's warming up, I mean, I think most of you are very familiar with the floor plan in that there's a separate high school wing and middle school wing. There's separate entrances for those populations. And that the shared facilities are just the cafeteria, serving kitchen, and the music department. The auditorium is shared. The stage will be used at different times of the day by chorus in the middle school and then chorus in the high school. And the band room will also be shared because it happens once a day for each of those. So building multiple rooms to serve the same function just didn't make sense.
But
So-
shared doesn't necessarily mean they're all gonna be in together at the same
Absolutely
time.
not.
It
No,
just
no.
means that's
I
an
mean-
area
They might
that
pass.
both would use.
Well, and
at
they
some
probably
point.
wouldn't pass each other, they'll be in there at different class
Yeah.
times.
Right,
They'll
right,
be
yeah.
the same physical part of the building, but used at different times. And the gymnasiums, it's just a matter of the layout that the high school gymnasium is on the opposite side of where the middle school gymnasium is. So at some point, the high school students need to cross that location to get to their gym. And that's where the one, and I mean, 6 may be in the building, but one in particular station for a SRO would be intentionally located in that hallway where they may, where the high schoolers have to cross in order to get past the middle school gym to get to their gym. And whether or not there are middle school students in that hallway at the same time is not something that, we can control. But, it's certainly not going to be anyone's intention that they're always in the same hallway. It's really limited to that one spot and only for students going from the high school to the gym during the school day.
Rob, is it conceivable that middle schoolers are going to lunch while some people are going to PE or gym?
I need to see the drawing again, I can't.
But I mean,
they-
class-wise, that might
I don't think they
happen,
would want,
time-wise, right?
Yeah, that's
yeah,
last time.
what's that?
What we talked about last time was the middle school would be having lunch in the cafeteria, but there would be no walk between that and the hallway. And high school students might be going past the cafeteria.
Mhm.
So the area of concern extends a little bit farther than
Then that
just
little, okay.
that, getting from the middle school wing to their gym.
Except I think with that other corridor, they could have gotten to that area without ever going into that shared hallway.
With the two
That's-
quarters.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, I just want to make sure we completely vetted this and agree this is what we want to do, or
It's $1 million question, Fiona.
Yeah.
It's not 2 floors, right, in that 40-foot area that you can send kids up and down.
The number of security people, is there an increase based on this design, or are there already that many?
There are already that many there.
That's
There's,
there's security
there's
cameras.
some at the middle school and some at the high school, so the middle school people will be moving over.
There it is.
So Ally just brought up the presentation from last meeting. Thank you, Ally. And that green corridor is what we were talking about first the $700,000 savings to the project. And that corridor would be from the high school wing, and this is the high school dining hall, that the high schoolers would follow that green path to get to their gym. They would actually continue behind their gym and into the locker rooms areas, which are upstairs in that location. So to a point made earlier, thank you, by someone, this corridor also would require oversight. And by eliminating that corridor, instead, the high schoolers will go from this area across the front of the gyms and get to their gymnasium and locker rooms area. There's a door to the middle school gym here, and here, this is the middle school gym. So that's the location where if for some reason bills were the same for middle school and high school, then middle schoolers might be going to their gym and high schoolers might be crossing and going to their gym. And this location where there's an expansion in the corridor is where the security desk would reside for that SRO. And I can see my bag ringing over there. And I'll pull up today's plan, which is updated to indicate this corridor no longer riding across the back of the school like that. But I would be concerned that this area would require oversight. That'll stop. Let's count. Oh, okay.
So is the intention of the new plan that the high school kids will walk through the middle school cafeteria to go to gym?
Say that again?
The
Okay,
hallways.
yes, it looks like they are, but really the cafeterias are open to the corridor.
They're open to the corridor?
Yeah.
Right, they're like a student center that you walk freely into.
Oh, okay, like a college, almost like a college campus, it's
Yeah.
open.
There's no doors.
Ally took it down.
Was it part of the value engineering that the
We're talking about, I think, Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, we're talking about doing a knee wall there with some glass or
Glass
something.
above it, yes.
but a
In
wall of
between-
separation was
Correct.
taken out, right?
Right, correct.
Right, in between the
There wasn't
dining
much of a wall
halls.
down though.
Actually,
That's a
we
screen.
redesigned it so the servery will actually be between those. So right now, that red line in this plan indicated the area where this indicated where the high school and the middle school would be separated. This being the servery and this being the kitchen. And so, again, controlling either by timing or by a wall, that red line could go all the way down here, servery, dining hall, or, seating, during those 3 waves. And so we have a meeting, actually, that we're gonna schedule next week or the first week of August, because we just met with our food service consultant. And so he's coming up with 3 options that we're going to meet with the food service director in town, the manager for the high school, the current high school kitchen, and the superintendents, and talk about how that servery is going to work. Do we need to double up on all of the equipment that's purchased? And servers, so they would need to add resources and staff to the kitchen in order to serve both middle school and high school at the same time? Or could we use the same amount of staff that they currently have and make the timing of middle school and high school, be offset? So again, that's sort of an administrative decision that we're gonna be discussing coming up. And since I can't log on, I'm just holding this, I'm gonna have you open that door.
Yeah, that would.
Then could you bring back the middle school time with the high school
So then,
further out? So that when they walk across, there's no area between.
No, we gotta,
Right, like so ours, yeah, I hear you.
Right.
There's, yeah,
They can only put so many security.
they're, there's, walls now.
that's
Kids come in, even, you know, like that aren't supposed to be in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that'll let you see it.
Right.
Double doors to the side.
Yeah, because it was more a different area that we were talking about.
I mean, it's legit concern.
Because they only allow in between.
Sure.
Cafeteria.
So I don't know, would you like me to go directly to that floor plan again to continue this discussion?
Personally, I'd like to hear our two principals. I mean, these are the people who are, it's your building.
Right,
I would love to hear what your concerns are. You guys know this population better than anybody else in this room.
Yeah, so when we were talking, I didn't realize that was the area we were talking about before. So yeah, it does seem that it would be definitely something that we would have to keep an eye on, you know, that it's accessible. It's more, that area is accessible. I mean, what are you saying? What kind of, there is kind of a hallway, but there's a half.
we can make it as, this is all in progress.
Yeah.
So we can make it as solid or as open as you'd like. We would like the opportunity for people to gather in the auditorium, be coming to an event and have sort of a larger feeling space to go in and out of. Maybe that they could offer some refreshments in the cafeteria, and that's a pre space for the auditorium. So we like the idea of this being an open environment, but if you feel like it needs to be walled off, it certainly could be. The tables drawn in multicolors here indicate here's the high school. That's okay. Oh, sure.
Sorry, being picky. Want to see it too.
Oh.
Thanks, Cooper.
Thank you. So this
Yeah, it's
is,
a different design.
well, right, this is the updated design with no corridor running across the back, right? So what you see is what was described in that last meeting, the savings represented in this plan. So high school, again, would be here, and they would also have a door here to the band room. They have multiple entrances and exits to the auditorium, as is required by code for such a large space. And this is the high school's dining area with a lot of natural light. And this is what we're showing right now as the shared servery. Now the servery, what's not drawn yet is the equipment where you take your tray and you go to different stations. It can be designed in a number of different ways. It can look like a food court where students can just go up to find the food, you know, if they want the hot lunch for the day, or if they want pizza, or if they want a sandwich or salad bar. Or it can be the traditional slide your tray around and wait for everyone, no matter what, even if you're only waiting for wanting pizza, right? But there would be equipment either in the center of this room, access, this is the kitchen. So the kitchen is gonna provide food that is served here. Those are either gonna be those stations that I described, or a tray service where you walk through. And again, that's gonna be developed as we work with your food director, food service director. That's not something that we do in a bubble or by ourselves. So here's entry and exit, or entry points for the high schoolers to get into the servery. On this side, there's the middle school's dining area and their entrances to get into the servery. Is there a wall down the middle of this? Is there equipment down the middle of this where the same staff from the kitchen works and sometimes faces one direction, sometimes faces the other? So that's all the kind of thing that we're gonna talk with your food service director about and your administration, both the principals and the superintendents to discuss and decide what the layout is. But I think that there are multiple ways to service both the high school and the middle school with the same kitchen and servery.
If, now, that's obviously the food service is gonna want it the way they want it, but my thought is, if you have equipment that's movable, then that space can be utilized in many different ways for like after-school events, community events and stuff like that,
Do
correct?
you mean in the dining area? The tables will all
No,
be
I'm even
movable?
talking in the serving area.
Well, in the servery, most of that is tied to plumbing and power that makes it, once you design it, it's.
But like, I don't know, it's just, I don't know if there's any equipment that can be moved around a little
I mean,
more.
there's some equipment that's on wheels, but it's usually almost a residential, and it's really there just for the purpose of moving it out of the way, enough for housekeeping. It's not, it is still all, connected to utilities.
Commercial
It's pretty-
equipment for kitchens is very heavy and typically tied to a lot of utilities.
I think he's talking about the rolling hot.
Yeah.
And the cold that you can move around.
Sure, until they need power. Right.
So just one more thing, I'm not gonna say anything. So I guess, so from my perspective, the way we had it before wasn't going to require us to say, Johnny, you're in the high school, get out of the middle school caf, because they would be coming in the back.
The the cafeteria design was always like this.
Right,
This is
but there
no
was a
change to the
door in
cafeteria
the
design.
back. In the first one, there was a door, so the high school kids came down that corridor, middle school came down that. I assumed we would have a door in that corridor so the high school kids wouldn't enter to the
I believe there
cafeteria
was a
that way.
partition. that
There was an
supposed to
operable
extend.
partition. This is like a 20-foot wide space right here.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that with a door.
No,
But
it was a,
It was like an operable partition.
right.
We can still have that. But now, in this case, without the corridor, that would be inconvenient. It would stay open for access to that high school gym, right? But
But it creates a lot of work, I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, but in determining who's supposed to be where, it just to me seems very congested. A lot of people in one area, and someone has to know these kids to know where they're supposed to be. So that's all I'm gonna say, but.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. It's definitely a supervision, issue.
Right.
Concern. But the two things, are there any schools that have a similar model and where their middle school and high school kind of is using the same space for lunch? And then when the kids walk, say our high school kids are trying to get to the gym, what does it look like so that they don't go into the middle school on the right there? There's doors.
Right. So where there's a red line here, these are my suggestion for cross corridor doors. Whether they are open or closed during the school day is, again, up to you. But they could be closed at night. Let's say you're having a band concert and the public is invited here. There's a lot of parking here. So this would be the public entry for basketball games, for concerts and drama performances. And they would come in here and the public, let's say that they were going to the auditorium, they do need access to the bathrooms, these bathrooms, perhaps these bathrooms. And so lockdown could occur just after the bathrooms here, so no one could get into the middle school, and here, so no one could get into the high school academic areas after hours, unless you want them to be there. Same thing on weekends. If you're renting out the gym for a basketball camp or something.
But during the school day, we would be able to keep those locked because the middle school kids need to get to the middle school gym.
Right, right.
But couldn't you keep it locked and open it as they move?
Well, we'd have to really closely study the code egress, because in the case of a fire emergency, we need to make sure that everyone has the ability to exit. So locking doors in the cross corridor is really very difficult. We would have to make sure that upstairs, people could still get to the stair and exit. Which is, okay, they could, in that case, but in the high school, you know, we'd have to study that. I really wouldn't recommend locking cross corridor doors during the day.
I haven't seen any doors locked in a school like that.
No, the classroom doors are all usually
Correct.
locked.
Yeah, but not the whole corridor doors.
Quick question.
Sure.
The concept of across, is it a pulley system? Does it come down? Does it come across in that 20-foot width in the cafeteria area?
So they make both. They make skyfold doors, which fold up into the ceiling. They make, you know, kind of like accordion doors, but sound.
The game plan from the educational standpoint is to keep, if we had a door there, whether it comes from the ceiling, goes across from wall to wall, would have that door or screen closed for the majority of the day.
Yeah.
And there could be a doorway within that screen that when the high school students are on their way to the gym class, they can just open that door, so the screen would be closed, except for this door. They would just step through and walk right through the corridor to wherever they're going into the gym.
They could. There are man doors in operable partitions. They're
Talking
not.
about partitions like they have in conference centers, correct?
That's one version, yes. And again, here we have to look at the code. There's a brand name door called Guam door, which does open automatically during a fire event. So if a fire alarm went off, it would pull all the way open, because you would need full width for the egress capacity during.
Well, we
fire.
should look at that too, because it's,
Yeah.
you know.
But even if it were a partition or what have you, it would have to be like see-through, because it couldn't be solid. You would need to see what the kids were doing on either side. Do you know what I mean?
Right. I would think you'd
Well,
have supervision in
that
each
would
of the
Cafeteria.
cafeterias, separate and
Right.
distinct from the concern about the
Right.
students,
So
the high
I
school
don't think it
students
would-
moving through the middle school area. You'd have to have that anyway. So I don't know if you need a see-through system.
Except, so kids move about freely at this age. It's not like elementary school. So you could have, if we have this partition, you could have a middle school and high school kid go into that gym area in this center.
I think that-
Because they're
Can you ask
going
your
into a
question
common
again?
area. So in the other one, the corridor only brought the high school kids to the high school gym. Middle school brought them to the middle school gym.
Right, I mean, there would be some level of, even behind here, if the corridor was back, and it ran this full distance. You know, there is an exit from the gym, middle school gym, out here,
Yeah.
which would have had to go through that corridor. Again, you
But
can't
that door
lock people
could-
in.
Yeah.
You cannot lock people in. That's-
You would always have that 20-foot opening even before with the back
Right,
corridor,
that's
where now
correct.
it's just, we're just
This is not a
facilitating the.
different design.
Right.
No, but the
and-
difference being that before we were talking about a petition that was going to separate the two areas so that students weren't moving freely back and forth between the two buildings. And now that's gone.
You could still have that. That was, Dave or Laurel could look up on the value management list what the cost of that operable partition was as well. But that was a value management item as well. But that, let's say this was here. It could stay in the closed position all, you know, theoretically all day, except for those 24 or 48 students who are going to the gym for PE class during those 5 minutes of their,
So it has to open and close frequently then. If
Well-
you've got students going in increments of class time,
right,
then that partition would have to keep opening and closing.
Unless you had a door.
well, the and/or in the partition, or this could be designed as a solid wall fixed and have a door in it. But if it were a solid wall, it would really limit the feel of the openness for the public when they're coming for an event.
And a wall actually doesn't even address, because the middle school kids don't go into the THS side,
No,
a wall doesn't even address the traffic flow issue of getting, there's still gonna be this, that-
Interaction
Yeah.
time.
right here.
right, and
You know,
farther
so,
down.
so here is where, if it's not lunchtime, let's talk about like, third period. Middle schoolers go to the middle school gym, they're crossing here to get into this gym or into their locker rooms. High schoolers are coming across here and going to get to their locker rooms or their gym. So the intersection is really here at the end of that middle school corridor.
But the
Yeah.
passing time
Again.
won't be the same.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
I mean, that's again, something I'm not in control of, and so I don't want to say that it won't be.
Feeding that many people though, there will, I don't even know now, sometimes, I think one of my
10,
kids had lunch at like
Yeah.
10:15 in the morning.
Right.
Usually
So-
runs from 10:20 until about 1:45.
Exactly, so
Mhm.
that is constant movement, not just to the gym, but to the
For an extended period of time.
4 hours of the day. So and of course, there will be people that need the gym during that time. So it's, I don't know that timing is gonna solve a lot of that.
It would be hard.
And also, remembering that some of the facilities are shared, the stage, the band room. Again, not high schoolers and middle schoolers mixing, but the high school band will be here one period, the middle school band will be here another period of the day. So organizing your bell system to
That makes
accommodate
it
that,
a little challenging
makes
too,
it
though,
challenging,
because
right.
if we're doing staggered classes, then how do
We
we?
can't stagger the
Yeah.
times if we have to share the rooms.
correct. And that is part of the built-in nature of
Yep.
putting, making a 7 through 12 school. There are gonna be shared facilities, and that's why the state has a lower allowable area for projects like this, because they actually expect more of these facilities to be shared. We're not sharing libraries, we're not sharing nurses' offices. Some schools do that. They just have one school nurse for 7 through 12.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
is
don't.
there a school or that is using like a nice open space like that? Because that was definitely the vision from the beginning, to have that open, common space to gather.
There are, absolutely,
Yeah.
throughout the state. There are a number of 6 through 12 schools. There's Capital Prep in Hartford, that's a K through 12.
Mm-hmm.
The youngest elementary students do eat in their classroom, so they don't share the cafeteria, but middle school and high school do. CREC, Civic Leadership Academy in Enfield was designed as a 6 through 12, all, one
Is there an
cafeteria.
apples to apples comparison with our DRG? Essentially, I don't know if that you guys even used it, the types of school where schools like Torrington, as opposed to, a prep school or a specialized school.
Well,
Like in
despite the
Capital
name,
Prep
the
would
school in
Yeah.
Hartford
Capital
is,
Prep is
it's an inner city school.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that a magnet? That's a magnet. Or
It
is it
was
just
a
a magnet?
magnet originally,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it's intra-district or just
Okay.
within Hartford.
Just quickly, I know most of the Waterbury high schools, they share the facilities with their middle
Right.
school.
Right.
I know Wilby's one.
Yep.
Do they have a similar setup?
I'm
I
not
know the
familiar with
gym.
that school,
I went
but
to Wilby and as we're talking, I'm trying to think, like, I know that I could walk over to the middle school if I wanted to easily. It was separate, but we didn't do it. You just didn't do it.
Right.
The half was not shared, you know, we didn't eat at the same time.
The sporting
Definitely.
events, I
But
know
the
they share the
sporting
same
events,
gym.
that big gym,
Yeah.
yep, both schools used it. So they scheduled, they had that partition,
Right.
you know,
Did they share locker rooms?
no.
They have a lot more security guards though. I think that's structurally, we don't. We have one resource officer and then our security paras.
Yeah, I don't know.
Clearly, clearly there's a lot of concern about the flow of students there, and the reality that, you know, our administrators shouldn't be just, they got a lot more on their plate than worrying about precise trafficking of students on a daily basis. That shouldn't be a major concern. And I think what I'm hearing, a lot of people are saying the same thing, is that, I mean, I'm not sure if, is there someone getting some kind of models for us? I mean, you know, just, you know, digital models that people could look at to see what this would look like in terms of, you know, what that space feels like and.
Well, absolutely. This is the very beginning of design development, and so we'll be doing 3D images of the interior of the building as we go through.
Yeah.
But that won't change the design. You know, this, it could
And I'm
be a very
thinking-
beautiful open space, but it won't change the need for that circulation to pass.
So the corridor was 700,000, that's what was saved by taking out.
What was the
Well,
original?
it's better with the server in the middle, it kind
Where?
of separates the two.
Mhm.
Oh, the one that wrapped over.
It's just the
the
walking.
outside.
It's the walking too.
Yeah.
THS went there, middle school.
I just remember as a teacher, how we kept our, because we were in one building and keeping them separate. I mean, most kids were fine, but you always
Yeah,
had
yeah.
the little
You're-
clowns.
you're
that
gonna
came
anyway.
I think schedule wise, you know, there are periods that the gym isn't being used now, right? So we could try to be mindful of not scheduling during lunch if ever possible. You know,
Right.
there probably wouldn't be full time, but
You know, if you can send me both ones, we'll send it out colorful. So we can talk about it and have both Sues here.
Yeah.
And both principals to discuss it, be probably a better
Yeah, I mean,
fit in, and both principals can then
we could talk
look
about
at
it all night, but
Mhm.
it'll
Right.
take more than just tonight.
pros and cons to both.
Yeah.
Well, just for my edification, I'm kind of late to the party here. There was that wraparound corridor initially, that was 700,000, is that what?
correct.
Yeah,
So
300
there.
feet though of corridor with no windows or anything. But yes, 700 grand.
And
But there
that-
was also a
Well, it had
security
windows to
concern.
the exterior, but I think
Well, I'm
what
sorry,
you're
but-
talking about
right.
is
Yeah.
that the
They were
The
Incubated.
need for someone to oversee the high schoolers making their way from here,
a long way.
around here, through the loading dock.
That's a
This
long
is the,
Yeah,
like a back of house kind of service area, but what we had done is carved the corridor right through that. And then passed behind the middle school gym. It actually moved the bleachers forward by about 10 feet, and we had the corridor running through the, back of this area, so the gymnasium.
And with this basic design, that was the most efficient way to use that, a dedicated corridor, that design. I mean, if you had $700,000 back in the budget, is there another way you could do that without the windowless business and all that? You know what I'm saying?
This is.
My feeling being, at the end of the day, if this building is supposed to service for 50 years,
No, I got you.
$700,000
No,
to
I
keep,
got you.
$700,000 to do what is one of the primary functions here, to keep two discrete school populations separated. That's not a lot of money.
But I've been in many
but that-
schools for 53 years, and when you have a corridor of 300 feet
That's a
and
long.
nobody watching,
Exactly.
there's gonna be.
That would add to
Even if you
staff.
had somebody watching, you have to watch from at least both ends because it's
Right.
not
Well,
real
right.
line of sight. you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
But-
and the PE teacher, I would assume, just as a matter of course, steps out of the gym and watches for students coming and going into and out of the locker rooms. Anyway,
But that doesn't alter
Yes.
the fact
should be,
of
but
the
they should make
servery
some-
or where they're eating, the lunchroom. It doesn't alter that fact. That's where the mix is.
No.
Well, it does,
hallway.
it would, It
Yeah.
would alter
Yeah,
the
sure.
pathways of
Good point, but
confusion.
I
It
think
wouldn't
that's
necessarily stop somebody from walking into the open space, but the worrying about the scheduling, about you still need a person to watch that area. In a corridor, you're gonna have a person dedicated who knows who, it's high school kids, they know the high school
Right.
kids. The other place, you have to have people who know, is this a middle schooler, is it a middle schooler that looks like an 11th grader? I think that while, yes, it's a long corridor and there might be some issues with that, if weighed with all the other scheduling, administrative and confusion, it's just something I don't know. we
It's a
could think
good
about.
point to discuss the next meeting, and we'll have both zoos.
Yeah.
And we'll have those, if you send them to me, both
The cafeteria
diagrams.
Well, I
still
think maybe
would
we
be
should have
open.
a meeting with the
That's
administration
petition.
beforehand too.
Right.
And didn't that also
And the
affect
petition.
use of the basement and the location of the locker rooms when you were doing that whole rescheduling? So it wasn't just the corridor that was changing.
That's correct, a separate change, new
They still would
piece
have
of this design is that the middle school
if
locker
they wanted
rooms
to
are now
mix
here
in
rather
the
than
cafeteria.
down in the
Down
basement
in the
area.
basement. Yeah, because I thought there were other components to making that change as well.
That's not a part of that $700,000 savings. It was a different line item,
Okay, thank you.
an even better savings.
If you take the corridor back, they have to go across the loading dock?
No, the receiving room and the loading dock it's drawn here, but it's so light you can't see it.
Okay.
But the loading dock is here and there's a receiving room. And then there's some storage rooms associated and kitchen storage and then the kitchen. But if we put the corridor back, it becomes a corridor between loading and receiving. Then there's a corridor, and then there's some storage rooms and the kitchen.
So it's possible that the students could be interacting with delivery people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but again, people time their deliveries really.
Yeah.
And kids time their escape from school at the delivery.
Yeah, and
But
There
administrators
will
shouldn't
be
be tasked with trying to
alarms on
coordinate that as well. They've got enough on their
Right.
plate. This is a design issue. It shouldn't be a workflow traffic issue for administrators to manage, in my personal opinion.
well, the design issue is relative to utilizing the gymnasium in this location. The gym's not gonna move. And there is another option that we looked at, so I'll voice this option, but I know it's expensive and probably more than the 700,000. But the locker rooms at that end of the gym are on the second floor. And so as a design team, we also looked at connecting at the second floor. Here's the high school wing, and they have a stair here, they have a stair here, they have a stair at the other end. So, could they use this stair and go across a new corridor at the second floor level?
Mhm.
Essentially,
That would be nice.
That's a
cutting
good
across
idea.
here.
Well, that, what's the cost of that? And quite frankly, what's
It's
the
more than
number?
$700,000,
Yeah.
but I don't know because we didn't price it. But
Just me personally, I would love to see that on this, that, when I went to Torrington High School, one of the things I liked most was, besides getting out of classes, when I walked down those glass lined, corridors there, it was just a nice feeling of being able to look outside and not in a classroom. And it definitely, to whatever extent, de-stressed me, and
We
I'm sure a million
totally
other
agree.
kids that went through there. So,
yeah, so we have
utilizing
that. We have that all along the high school here,
okay.
facing the beautiful courtyard. We have a number of spaces that look out over the
Mhm.
pond and park. And then in the middle school, looking over at the fields. So I do think that experience will be had by the students.
Especially on the first floor where all the pathways are, it's all
Yes.
looking
Right,
out.
yeah.
to the- Yeah, everything's looking out.
But you know what I'm saying, Ed? I mean, again.
Yeah, I understand.
$160 million for 50 years, and if it's this to me seems to be, for a whole bunch of reasons, a problem, this commingling these
I will not.
options in terms
But
of
you're,
stuff.
the cost may.
No,
Okay.
well, listen now, listen. This is gonna be a shell of a building, right?
Right,
That's our existing gym, and it's gonna be a shell. It is what it is now. It's one level here, two levels here,
correct.
okay? what if we refocused the varsity gym in this direction and flipped the middle school over here, right? This corridor would line up with the public entry, right? Because this gym is much smaller, right? So in other words, right, this goes over here, right? This is more than they need, granted. And even if we had to leave that as, you know, the coaches' areas for high school, we could, but this may possibly solve our daytime problems. So what if this wing right here went right here? This right here falls almost in line with the public entry. And then the varsity gym is right here, which brings it closer to the high school.
Yep.
Which allows you to either somehow facilitate a quick boop into here or a shorter corridor to the high school.
Yes,
Is
and you're trading the cost of, well, we're no longer getting the benefit of the cost of reusing the structure of the existing gym.
Why aren't we? Why can't the structure just stay and house the middle school gym instead of the?
But I think
It can, but
you're
then-
using a bigger space, you're using a bigger structure to house a smaller space, and then you're gonna have to build
Right,
a
this
bigger new
addition would
structure
have to
to
be
house.
this size.
Right, so you're adding more square footage.
Yeah,
to the
you're
building.
adding this right here, right?
And
That's reversed.
And you're
bigger structure.
underutilizing the space that's the existing
Right.
gymnasium now.
And you still have to go through the intersection. The high school kids still have to.
Well, but your corridor could be shorter if you did that corridor. Or either way you look at it, if the high schoolers are going here, it's, I don't know how many feet, 100 feet less than going where they're going now.
You'd have to walk through the gym, it looks like, to get to the locker room under that design, if you flip-flopped it, because the locker room's big.
well, if we did that, we would have to put a whole new bank of locker rooms here.
Yes,
The
correct.
high school locker rooms are much more significant
Yeah,
than
much
the
bigger,
middle
right.
school.
And the thing is, the idea was to have a functioning gym space
During
available
construction.
outside of the existing gym space, otherwise
Structure.
there is nowhere for gym or physical education to take place.
During the construction.
Right.
So the original structure where it says public entry, and you go down that where the entry is, the bottom one,
Well, the original structure is only this green, and.
that's what okay,
Mhm.
that's the original.
This
Okay,
is an addition to the original because that's gonna be the new entry and corridor for public entry. And then starting here, this is all new. Well, it's all new.
Well, if you just left the big portion, make that the middle school gym, and the little one make the high school gym.
Someone's not gonna like that.
I know. Instead of moving it because it's gonna cost you more money, but if you did that,
Well, you need the seating and all, you need
Yeah, I
the
know.
seating, you need the bigger locker rooms.
And you
Yeah.
still
But an
have,
elevated corridor,
still have a
because I know
crossover.
that the one in Waterbury Career Academy has the walk above where you can watch games from that
Have
elevated
the Chip and
corridor as
Sales
well.
in Bristol.
Yeah.
We designed Chip and Sale and we designed Waterbury Career Academy.
So like,
I'm
what are
very
we
familiar with
talking,
those.
like 2 million, a million? I'm not holding you to it. I'm just
You should ask those people that.
curious.
It's just, again, it's more, remember, we're over budget right now, right? I mean, we can't, it's your project, but
But
we
so-
just, the more of these things that the walkway would be one of those things that's, I don't know what, it's not program space, right? It's not educational space. So something else has to give in this
The idea was to cut
equation.
stuff that's not educational space.
We have a building that's already 20,000 square feet larger, right?
Yeah.
Than initially expected.
And from my standpoint, I'm also looking at the long term.
Right, and
So
I understand, right, I
if
understand.
it's gonna cost us $1 million, but I'm gonna pay $1 million over 7 years, paying for staff to monitor that, then it seems just, and.
is
you
it
know,
new staff though, or staff we
I
already
think
have?
so. So in a CAP, like in our CAP, we have already administrators, a couple of teachers on duty. We have the 2 security paras. You know, so there's supervision there already. And I don't know, I think it's more about yes, will maybe a middle school kid try to sneak over once in a while or a high school kid? Yes. That happens now, kids going, I hear what you guys are saying. But I don't know that it would require all that much extra. I don't, there's already 6, 7 adults
But don't
already
you keep
in.
your cafeteria open for breakfast in the morning?
Well, they come in in the morning and have breakfast and then they go to class.
Right, so to solve that, if we can go back 2 slides. Thanks, yep. If you can orient yourself, this is the main entrance that we were talking about, the public entry. At this end is the middle school entry, and at this end is the high school entry. This is intended to be a car drop-off lane, so parent drop-off would occur here, middle schoolers would go in here, high schoolers would go in here. You've got middle schoolers and high schoolers both coming on buses, whether from Daly or from Major Bessie, and they are going to be dropped off in this loop. When the buses drop off students at outdoors, this is per the discussion with the administration. The superintendents and administration. Oh, no problem. So anyway, the high schoolers would come in through that public entry, and the middle schoolers would come in through their entrance at the end of their middle school wing. Because what I understand is, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, principals, high schoolers go to the CAF at the beginning of the school day, and middle schoolers go directly to their classrooms. So the middle schoolers would be directed and would normally come in.
So they eat breakfast in their classrooms?
Do you guys want me to read this out loud because I'm close to the screen?
Right, sure.
Sue Al says, fire department frowns on locked doors. They have to approve our plans. And she also said, can we look at this again as an admin team to review what is possible and then bring some ideas back to the building committee?
Good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spin a wheel.
Yeah,
Good idea.
exactly.
Thank you,
Okay.
So I think to answer your question about where do students go at the beginning of the day, that's what we were told. And so the main entrance and the high schoolers would go directly to the CAF. The middle schoolers would go directly to the school.
So I think, Amy, as Sue said, the administration will meet and then bring it to the full committee.
And just, this is only my personal opinion, but, and I know there's many nuances to the pricing, et cetera, but if we're just using that $700,000, I mean, this happens all the time with value engineering, you end up changing the philosophy of the place. I'm not sure that we should lose sight of that. And I do think that part of, when we were trying to get this through the referendum, that part of it was selling it as 2 distinct buildings. And to the extent that we look to save $700,000, and if people think that overrides that kind of philosophy, I'm not sure that.
Well, we'll bring it back with the 2 Sues and then the administration. They'll bring it back.
But listen, everybody who's spoken today is right.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, we wish we could have it all.
Yeah.
Right.
We wouldn't have designed it in schematic design if we didn't think it was a viable design. But
But
then
we-
we were asked to reduce costs.
Right.
These are the things that we could point to because there is an abundance of circulation as compared to what you would need if you had a separate high school or a separate middle school.
at the same time, I think we'd be foolish to think that we're the only ones that have ever dealt with this, you know?
Right.
But Paul, Donna, you guys are all, it's a definite legitimate concern.
Mhm.
But
So,
we've also always had that open area.
yeah.
It's
I don't
always been
think
part
any
of
of
the
us-
design,
yeah,
you know, that it
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
open.
I don't think any of us want to lose that feeling.
No, right,
And
right.
to Amy's point, it's excellent if somebody could empty out an auditorium and go into a sit-down
Dining
area,
area.
dining
Yeah,
for
right,
coffee or whatever the
right.
case may be, right?
It's a nice event
Sure.
space. that-
So, well, I'm sure we'll figure it out.
Yeah, you will.
Thanks, Amy.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
So I'm gonna scroll through the next few slides. Oh, perfect. So second floor, you can see that the wings are entirely separate. There is no connection. But this is what I was talking about that we had looked at, like, okay, you can either go around back on the first floor, gives you access to the gym and the stairs to the locker rooms, or you can see there at the end, those locker rooms are on the second floor, but they are isolated in that they are not connected by any corridor system to the rest of the second floor areas. So this is accessed from stairs at both ends and an elevator. That is just a 2-story elevator. So that, you know, intrigued us and we thought, okay, can we get there from here? But it would be the same situation, a long corridor, purely circulation space, and doubling up the circulation space that's directly below. So for cost reasons, it was,
Understood.
but all those options are out there and on the table. So moving on to the next. The third floor is where the media centers both are housed, overlooking the main entrance, full glass wall. It provides the opportunity to have a glass wall at the end of the corridor so you could sort of see through the middle school out beyond, so that what we like to have is at the end of each corridor have natural light, so you're not walking in, you know, toward darkness, you know, but that you're walking through light. So we really look to do that where possible. Next, middle school doesn't have a 4th floor, high school does, part of which is taken by high school program areas. And then this blue area is actually the central office administration zone. So they have a private or an elevator, a private entrance here with an elevator directly to the 4th floor.
That only goes to the 4th floor?
Nope, it goes to all the floors, but it's at that main entrance for the central office, so.
Excuse me, I can't see that far. The two rose color, rose colored, yeah, what is that?
I can't read it either, but the pathway spaces are that color, so that's representative. Oh, thank you. Classroom, is that, it's something classroom.
Business?
Oh, it is business.
Business, all right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And they would be looking out at the green, and we did have some.
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
that's a
every
beautiful
classroom
view.
will have a view.
Every
Yeah.
classroom has that.
That's on that. Does the curve, we okay to keep talking?
What?
Does the curve affect the
I
ability?
think you have
I
one more
know-
minute in your.
Okay. Well, important question to the principals and the administrators. I know there was a lot of talk in the very original design about new curriculum approach to things, being able to combine rooms and, right, to be able to take down rooms and have multi-purpose rooms. Does that curvilinear design, the shaping of that wall, does that prohibit you from being able to do that efficiently to combine
I don't
classrooms?
think it
No?
makes a
Okay.
difference.
Okay.
You know, these are typical academic classrooms.
Yeah.
Down on the first floor and the lower level, we have more pathway spaces, those premier spaces, hands-on learning spaces that are infused into the curriculum. And then the science labs are stacked, and they are intentionally on the orthogonal because science lab casework is orthogonal.
That's all.
Cabinets and all of that. So, and there's 2 per floor.
Okay, thank you.
It also helps because you can stack it. So that's the floor plans. And then the other thing that I was going to mention is that yesterday we had a security meeting, and Ed might have shared that with you already.
No, I did not.
Okay. And while we don't like to have, discuss all of the decisions that were made at the security meeting in the public building committee meeting.
But we did have, just to let you know, we had the the assistant fire chief was out. We had the fire marshal and we had the chief of police, the
Resource officer.
Yes,
Yeah.
resource officer and the traffic officer,
Right.
besides
And then
Mario and
members of this
myself.
committee are represented there.
And 2 board members.
Right.
Yep.
And really, it was a great meeting. They understand the costs that are involved, and we made some good decisions. And we're going to meet again in September with everything laid out.
Right. So I do have a few slides to share from that discussion. You can go to the next one, thanks. So this is not giving away any secrets. This is just good design and talking.
They do
about-
have, everybody has in their packet.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yesterday.
Yes.
Oh, yesterday's, okay, good. So this is where we talked about the gated entrance at Daily Drive, which will be power operated and controlled by timers and your same access control system as the doors to the school. And we talked about the extent of perimeter fencing that is preferred or not at the school. Not all of your schools in the district have full perimeter fencing around them. So there's not a precedent one way or the other. But this school does benefit from a state DOT fence along one property line. And so we talked about, to what extent do we continue that? The next slide. We also talked extensively about the level of security on windows and doors and what level of school guard glazing or ballistic glazing or security film we should use. And so without going into details about the decision that was made, we are pricing, secure measures. The SSIC, which is the required guidelines to follow for security for Connecticut, do require a secured main entrance. And at this school, we are considering all 3 of those doors that I showed you before as main entrances. And so those will all have a higher level of security than perhaps others. But a decision is really in the hands of the district for the level of security on the other windows at grade. And so we had a good discussion about that in decisions.
And by state statute, the superintendent has to sign off on the plan.
Right, so these are all guidelines, they are not requirements by the state of Connecticut, and every district has to know their own community and to what level of implementation for security they have. Your school will also be fully covered by security cameras and a new lockdown system.
And so that picture on the right could be something like a cath, possibly.
It could be,
right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. You could have a low wall like this. It's really a decorative railing.
Mhm.
And this is showing the inner vestibule doors. There's a set of exterior vestibule doors, all of which are hardened. And then these are always in the locked position during the school day. And there will be a security window into each main office where someone will take the credentials of your visitors and then allow them through either this new set of vestibule doors or into the main office.
Would it be cost prohibitive to do a knee wall with glass?
Glass above or a glass railing?
Knee wall, glass above, to solve the problem that they were talking about earlier.
It wouldn't be. Well, I mean, everything is adding cost from what's there, but everything could be looked at. And so this was just a discussion of in an area where you might have an open cafeteria and windows in that caf, discussion of those windows as well. So we can go to the next slide. And then, of course, there's glass on the exterior of schools, and we need to keep students safe through all of the levels of the school. And so the discussion was about full height glazing in into those premier rooms, the art rooms and the engineering spaces and all of those rooms that we really want to show off and make sure that the excitement that's going on in those rooms is shared. But we want to be safe about how we do that. And so we talked about what kind of glazing is there as well. It's something similar to what you have here where a pair of doors might be flanked by full glass walls or what's behind me. And what characteristics the glass has. And then we also talked about borrowed light into the corridors. It's a bad example because there's not light coming through this, but if there was light on in the classroom behind this, light spilling back and forth between classroom and corridor is always nice. These are above person height. So at these locations, we don't recommend or require any kind of higher level of security on that glass. It would just be a standard tempered glass or interior glass. Anything above 7 feet. And so that's the same at this location where above a door, you might have a glass panel. So that was also discussed. And I think that's it. So that's a little recap from some of our discussion yesterday on security.
Good discussion, Mario, at the meeting.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Police and fire, very,
Yeah, very active.
very, yes.
Yeah, helpful. Really, it was good discussion.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the payment of invoices. First one is Construction Solutions for $19,534.40. Who moved that?
Fiona.
Fiona. Have a second? Second, Pat. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Next one, SLAM. So you can see how it's broken down, $349,300. Have a motion to approve that? Fiona? Second? Donna? Sorry. It's broken down, as you can see. Any questions? Donna. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. Next item, commissioning. I just give it for your, the contract that was signed by the mayor by state statute. We approve the bid, but it goes to the city for their signature and execution. The building committee has nothing to do with that contract. Well, we do have to do the contract, but they are the ones who have to sign it. Next is update on zoning and setback and permit fees. Mario and I have a meeting with the mayor on Friday to discuss setbacks. Remember, we're a little over the design on the setback, so that's what we have to discuss. And also the permit fees of about $1.3 million that we want to have reduced or eliminated or discussed. So that's on Friday. One other thing, I know that it was asked, and I hope Paul and Sharon, you got the email to go on the website?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
All set, thank you.
Okay. It was asked to put them on the website like we all have it, and
Thank you. Much appreciated.
no problem. You get the bill, don't worry. No.
I'll send it
Just
to the mayor.
kidding. Just kidding.
Gotta find that 8 million somewhere.
Yeah.
I have one quick question.
Yeah.
I drive up and down Route 8 all the time. Who's going to be responsible for that landscape area right between, really, if you look at the bridge, that little bridge that crosses that creek from Bessie Pond and actually slows, I guess that would be north. There's all that landscape area. Is that state property or is that?
Are you talking along the fence line?
Along the fence line, more or less. It's really what's between Route 8 and the tennis courts. Because that is pretty, it has several high trees.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's part of, it has to be coordinated with
What's
DOT.
what's
You have to
the,
see where the property line is.
Property line,
yeah, I'm
yeah.
sure, I don't know if we're
I'm
doing.
sure the state has a sizable buffer
Yeah.
next to Route 8 that's their property that we would likely not have.
We'll do vista clearing though between the pond and the building though, right?
Well, I think the stuff that's on from the pond to going north to the building, We have purview over that, like from the highway to the building.
Right.
I didn't know if there's any coordination because I know, well, 5 or 6 years ago, the state came in and
Oh,
cleared
yeah.
all that area
Yeah.
between the football field.
Right, when we got the turf.
Right, it looked terrible for
Yeah,
a long
right.
time. I didn't
Right.
know if there was some way we could coordinate that to avoid it or some activity.
We could bring that up at the Friday's meeting, find out if
Yeah,
they know.
or we could use the police chief to get to them and say we
Yeah.
do or don't want
Correct,
stuff thinned out there.
yeah.
I mean, I think,
They have to keep some stuff there because of the trench.
Yeah.
That there was an accident a number of years ago.
Right.
Kid,
that's how we got to the high school when we were kids.
Yeah.
We did too.
Right under, right? From the north end, we went underneath the house. That's why we smelled when we got there.
Yeah, there was like, it's like.
Okay, I just want to.
No, that's good,
Because it's
yes.
something I see every
Yeah.
day and I always question who's got the
And the kids used to
responsibility.
walk through it.
That would be, I think
And
Bill
then
Baldwin
just-
would probably
Yeah.
be able to help you with that.
Yeah, you get to the right person quickly.
I didn't know that.
But they look like they may pound the place.
That's what Mel is going to work,
That
yeah.
repeat itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it helps with noise too,
Yeah. It's grown back, so that's nice. I don't know if they got it. Okay, comments for the good of the order? Lynn, anything? Paul?
No,
No, thank you. Donna?
Good,
Sharon?
nothing fancy.
Case? Back, yes. Amy, thank you.
All set?
Laurel?
Laurel, no.
Just, we'll get it.
Yes?
Yeah, we're gonna get it. The money's gonna work out and the design's gonna work out. So, it's a process.
Process, it's a good process, discussion. We want discussion.
We all want the same thing,
Yes, we want a
Right.
great school,
right? And it functions.
right, and the kids be
We'll get it.
educationally sound. Anything, Karen?
No.
Ellen?
Again, thank you for your patience with all of our
I
questions and, but
It's valuable for us, this is like a microcosm of the community, right? So this is who the building is for. And
Yeah,
so we
I
want to
agree.
make sure that we're vetting every design option and.
I think it's great discussion.
Yeah, it's great to have the principals here.
Right,
Yeah.
well, they only want to eat. That's- Especially Brian.
That's right. All set.
All set. Fiona?
I'm really not trying to be an obstructionist. I just
No,
really
no.
want to make sure
No,
that we
yeah,
have
of
no
course
regrets
not.
in this process and that we're
It's all right.
all solid.
Yeah, but I have a problem with you and Paul agreeing on something.
Yeah.
That's, we should write that down. What's today's
Note that
date?
in the minutes.
In the minutes, yeah. Karen, put that in the minutes.
we had our own conversation about that.
Yeah.
And we're equally surprised. Hopefully it's all for the
No,
best.
we appreciate Sharon and Paul coming to the meetings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think we're gonna keep trying to come to meetings so that
Good.
we stay on top of what's going on, so we can be liaisons somehow.
And if you ever need Mario and I to go to your meetings, just let me know.
If you take us out to lunch first or dinner.
Okay.
Always revolves around food.
Food,
I
yeah.
know, right?
With Eddie, it does.
Yeah.
Paul, I didn't realize when we were in high school
Kosher
together,
food.
you spent so much time looking out the windows.
I was there, got through. Jesus.
Just the quarter, just the
Yeah, I had to push
AB
the
connector.
Mr. Just stay out of the way, because he was doing his aqueduct picks, remember?
Next meeting, when do you think, Amy?
Well, when are, are Sue and Sue back?
Yeah, they're at a meeting today,
They're at a
that's why.
retreat.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
but I guess we should look at vacation schedule.
Yeah. And you'll be gone the first week in August?
Correct.
So you want to do it the second week, which is week of August 9th?
Sure. And so
On
do you want to go back to a Thursday?
Thursday, August 12th? How does that look for everybody? That's fine.
It's my anniversary.
How's it look, Dave and Laurel?
Good.
We've talked about
It's not a big. deal.
Okay.
What time?
5 o'clock.
5?
What? You want it earlier?
No. It used to be 5:30, I don't know.
Well, 5 o'clock, So we gotta go out,
Because you get an early bird special.
There's
Yeah.
a child care nominating.
Oh, God.
He gets the sandwiches at
5 o'clock,
lunch.
August 12th, same place.
It's discount before 5.
Yeah.
You didn't get loaded for no reason, man. That's how he got rich.
Motion to adjourn?
Someone.
John, second, Pat. All in favor?
Aye.
I
Thanks for coming. Be safe.
29.